Hamas agrees to release American Israel hostage. Former central banker Mark Carney sworn in as Canadian new Prime Minister. Good afternoon and Salam Malaysia Madani. You're watching World Today. I'm Renee Fong. Hamas on Friday had agreed to release an American-Israeli dual national believed to be the last living American hostage held in Gaza after receiving a proposal from mediators to resume negotiations on the second phase of a ceasefire deal. Hamas said in a statement that it responded positively to the proposal presented on Thursday to restart the negotiations. It will also release the bodies of 4 other dual nationality hostages without giving further details. 2 Hamas officials said that their agreement to release the American-Israeli hostage and the 4 bodies was conditional on beginning the talks on the second phase of the ceasefire, opening crossings and lifting a total blockade imposed by Israel 2 weeks ago. Meetings between Hamas leaders and U.S. hostage negotiator Adam Boehler in recent days sought the release of Eden Alexander, a 21-year-old man from New Jersey who served as a soldier with the Israeli military. President Donald Trump's special envoy Steve Witkoff told reporters at the White House early in March that gaining the release of Alexander was a top priority. Ex-central banker Mark Carney was sworn in as Prime Minister of Canada on Friday and immediately said he could work with U.S. President Donald Trump, who is promising tariffs that could devastate the Canadian economy. Carney succeeds Justin Trudeau, who had a combative and often cold relationship with Trump. On the other hand, Carney, 59, made clear his approach would be different.
I look forward to speaking with President Trump. Just to be clear, we respect the United States. We respect President Trump. President Trump has put some very important issues at the top of his agenda. We understand his agenda. We understand the importance of addressing the scourge of fentanyl, which is a challenge here in Canada as well as the United States. And I would say that the measures that have been put in place in recent weeks in Canada and Mexico, also the United States, means that we are making tremendous progress. I'll speak specifically for against fentanyl.
Carney reshaped his 24-person cabinet with a view to dealing with Washington, cutting almost half the ministerial positions that he inherited from Trudeau. Carney, a former head of both the Bank of Canada and Bank of England, successfully argued his position as an outsider with a history of tackling crisis meant he was the best person to take on Trump, who has repeatedly talked about annexing Canada. The U.S. Senate on Friday passed a stopgap spending bill averting a partial government shutdown after Democrats backed down in a standoff driven by anger over President Donald Trump's campaign to slash the federal workforce. After days of heated debate, top Senate Democrat Chuck Schumer broke the logjam on Thursday night, saying that he would vote to allow the bill to advance. Schumer said he did not like the bill, but believed that triggering a shutdown would be a worse outcome as Trump and his advisor Elon Musk were moving swiftly to slash spending. The Senate voted 54-46 to pass the bill and send it to Trump for signing into law after fending off 4 amendments. The Republican-controlled House of Representatives earlier this week passed the measure, which largely leaves spending steady about $6.75 trillion in the fiscal year that ends 30th September. Democrats had expressed anger over the bill, which will cut spending by about $7 billion and which they said does nothing to stop Trump's campaign to halt congressionally mandated spending and slash tens of thousands of jobs. Lawmakers, including former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and New Yorker Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, heaped public criticism on Schumer on Friday, even without naming him directly. The group of 7 G7 nations has urged Russia to agree to a 30-day ceasefire with Ukraine, warning that further sanctions will be imposed if Moscow refuses. The G7 said in a joint statement issued on Friday they called for Russia to reciprocate by agreeing to a ceasefire on equal terms and implementing it fully. The statement also added the G7 is not hesitate to impose further costs on Russia in case such a ceasefire is not agreed, including through further sanctions, caps on oil prices, as well as additional support for Ukraine in other means. The countries also warned that they may use exceptional revenues generated from frozen Russian sovereign assets as part of potential measures against Moscow. On Thursday, Russian President Vladimir Putin said he was open to a 30-day ceasefire in Ukraine as proposed by the United States. However, he emphasized that the ceasefire would only be acceptable if it led to a lasting peace and addressed the root causes of the conflict. ASEAN should uphold its principle of neutrality and allow legal due process to unfold following the arrest of former Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte. And according to Professor of ASEAN Studies at the Institute of Islamic Thoughts and Civilization, ISTAC International Islamic University Malaysia, IIUM, Professor Dr. Par Kim Beng said the International Criminal Court's ICC move has placed ASEAN in an unprecedented position, as no Southeast Asian leader has ever been arrested and extradited to The Hague. Despite this development, he emphasized that ASEAN must adhere to its long-standing principle of non-interference. Professor Dr. Parr emphasized that ASEAN operates within an international legal framework whereas arrest warrant issued by Interpol and properly executed. Hence, as a regional bloc, ASEAN should stay on the sidelines, observe and allow the legal process to take its course. As the Philippines prepares to host ASEAN next year, Professor Dr. Parr said stability is crucial for the country to effectively manage its responsibilities. He cautioned that any political instability in Manila could undermine ASEAN's credibility and its ability to convene global leaders. On the broader geopolitical impact, Parr noted that Duterte's arrest could shift power dynamics between Manila, Beijing, and Washington. Up next, Pakistan death toll in a train hijacking rises to 31. Stay tuned. Pakistan's military spokesman said on Friday the death toll in a train hijacking in the country's southwestern mountains had risen to 31, and he repeated accusations that neighboring India and Afghanistan backed the militants who carried it out. The separatist Baloch Liberation Army has claimed responsibility for hijacking the Jafar Express on Tuesday. During the attack, they blew up train tracks and held passengers hostage in a day-long standoff with security forces in a remote mountain pass in Balochistan province. Army spokesperson Major General Ahmad Sharif Chowdhury claimed they have evidence that all the links to terrorism in Pakistan are traced back to Afghanistan, adding that India was the main sponsor of the insurgents. Islamabad has long accused New Delhi and Kabul of providing money, resources, weapons and training grounds to the insurgents in Balochistan province, which borders Afghanistan and Iran. Both countries have already denied the accusation, saying that the insurgency is Islamabad's internal problem. Chowdhury said a final count of the casualties included 18 soldiers, 3 railway employees and 5 civilians among the passengers who were held hostages by the insurgents for over 24 hours. Another 5 soldiers lost their lives during the rescue operation that killed 33 of the insurgents, and a total of 354 hostages were rescued. The insurgents have said they still held hostages, but Chowdhury said there was no evidence to suggest this was the case, and the military has said the siege has ended. The BLA is the largest and strongest of several ethnic Baloch insurgent groups which have been fighting for decades to win independence for the mineral-rich province, home to major China-led projects such as a port and gold and copper mines. Debris scattered inside a mosque in northwestern Pakistan after a blast tore through it, injuring an Islamist party leader and 3 others, including children. Abdullah Nadim, a local leader of the Jamiat Ulama Islam Fazl JF political party, was believed to be the target of the blast and had been hospitalized with serious injuries. Asif Bahadar, a district police chief in South Waziristan, said 2 children were among the injured, adding that it was not immediately clear who was behind the explosion. Attacks have been escalating in Pakistan's border regions with Afghanistan in recent months. Last month, a suicide bomber killed 6 worshippers during Friday prayers at an Islamic seminary in northwestern Pakistan, known as a historic training ground for the Afghan Taliban. This week in southwestern Balochistan, a separatist group hijacked a train and held passengers hostage in a day-long standoff with security forces. Pakistan has vowed to crack down on growing militancy and has said the militants are finding safe haven in neighboring Afghanistan, a charge the ruling Afghan Taliban deny. Elon Musk's electric vehicle company Tesla has warned that the trade war initiated by President Donald Trump could expose the company to retaliatory tariffs and increase vehicle production costs in the United States. In a letter to the U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer, Tesla expressed support for fair trade but warned that U.S. exporters are vulnerable to disproportionate impacts when other countries retaliate against U.S. trade actions. For example, previous U.S. trade actions triggered immediate reactions from targeted countries, including increased tariffs on imported EVs. The Trump administration had previously imposed additional tariffs, which led to retaliatory measures from Canada and the European Union. Tesla also emphasized that despite growing domestic production, some raw materials and components still need to be sourced from international markets. And according to a report by the Financial Times, the letter was unsigned, with sources claiming no one at the company wanted to risk being fired for sending it. Tesla has factories in China and Germany in addition to facilities in the US. Tesla CEO Musk was a close ally of Trump during the presidential campaign. Trump also appointed Musk as an advisor to help cut government spending and downsize the federal agency workforce, a move that drew criticism. Meanwhile, Tesla's stock price dropped after analysts lowered the company's sales projections. NASA and SpaceX on Friday launched a long-awaited crew to the International Space Station that will let them bring home U.S. astronauts Butch Wilmore and Suni Williams, who have been stuck on the orbital lab for 9 months. SpaceX's Falcon 9 rocket lifted off at 7:03 p.m. local time from NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida, carrying 4 astronauts who will replace Wilmore and Williams, both of whom are veteran NASA astronauts and retired U.S. Navy test pilots, and were the first to fly Boeing's BA and Starliner capsule to the ISS in June. However, problems with Starliner's propulsion system during the flight forced an extension of their planned 8-day stay at NASA, deemed it's too risky for them to fly home on the craft, which returned to Earth empty in September. Otherwise, a routine crew rotation flight, Friday's Crew 10 mission, is also a long-awaited key step to bring the astronaut duo back to Earth. They are scheduled to depart the station on March 19th after the Crew 10 astronauts arrive on Saturday night. The mission has become entangled in politics as President Donald Trump and his advisor Elon Musk, who is also SpaceX's CEO, say without evidence that former President Joe Biden left the astronauts on the station for political reasons. Italian authorities ordered dozens of people in Tuscany to leave their homes on Friday after heavy rain swelled rivers and flooded streets near the historic cities of Florence and Pisa. Regional Chief Eugenio Gianni said a red weather alert demanded that people should exercise maximum care and attention amid intense and persistent rain. Several dozen people were told to evacuate with the help of firefighters from low-lying villages and a floodplain near Pisa, according to the ANSA news agency. In Florence, the Uffizi Galleries, the world-famous art museum, closed early, as did the Duomo Cathedral. The fire service published images of cars partially submerged in the town of Sesto Fiorentino, north of Florence, as Gianni told residents to keep clear of ground floors and basements. More than 500 firefighters were working across Tuscany, with more than 300 interventions either carried out or planned. Bernardo Gozzini from the Tuscan Weather Service, Consorzio Lama, said that 60 millimeters of rain had fallen in the area around Sesto Fiorentino between 6 a.m. local time and noon. Meanwhile, heavily flowing rivers, damaged bridges, and water bubbling up in roads from infrastructure damage were seen in Pinetown, a town northwest of South Africa's largest port city, Durban, on Friday. And according to the KwaZulu-Natal Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, COGTA, torrential rainfalls on Thursday resulted in the death of one woman who has swept off a bridge in her vehicle in the province. In a statement released on Friday, the KwaZulu-Natal COGTA have been conducting extensive mop-up operations across the province, assessing damage to roads, bridges, and infrastructure by the water, erosion, and overturned trees. The electricity supply has also been affected in certain parts of the province. In the statement, the province's COGTA leader, Reverend Tulazizwi Buthelezi, warned against further severe weather conditions expected over the weekend. And more than 430 people died and thousands of people were left homeless in severe floods in the region in 2022. Starting off with our sports segment this afternoon, lack of consistency and a slew of mistakes cost top seeds Goh Sun Huat and Chevron Lai Jamie a place in the mixed doubles semi-finals of the All England Badminton Championships in Birmingham last night. The Malaysian professional pair started well but could not maintain their performance as they went down 21-18, 8-21 and 10-21 to China's Huang Dongping and Jiang Zhenbang in 45 minutes in the last 8 clash at the Utilita Arena, Birmingham. Sun Huat admitted that the Chinese pair played better and were more consistent throughout the 3 games. It was also the end of the road for top national women's doubles pair of Pearly Tan and M. Tina, who lost 17-21 and 19-21 to Japan's Chiharu Shida and Nami Matsuyama in the quarterfinals. With the exit of Sun Huat Chevon and Pearly Tina, Malaysia's challenge has come to an end in the Super 1000 tournament. Then in football news, Cristiano Ronaldo was first on the board for Al Nassr as they pommeled Al Kholoud 3-1 on Friday to keep their Saudi Pro League title hopes alive. It was the Portuguese player's 928th goal as he chases to reach 1,000. Ronaldo found himself perfectly positioned to score off the rebound when an attempt by Jean Duran was deflected by the goalkeeper in the 4th minute. Sadio Mane doubled the lead for the home side in the 26th minute, with Duran then making it 3-0 with a goal of his own 15 minutes later. Al Kholoud got on the board in the second half when a shot by Jackson Muleka was deflected off of Al Nassr defender Ali Lajami for an own goal. The win keeps Al Nassr in the title race, though they are still in 3rd place, 10 points behind leaders Al Ittihad, who have 61 points after 25 games. Al Hilal are in 2nd place on 54 points with a game in hand. Moving on to tennis, 2-time defending champion Carlos Alcaraz is bracing for a tough semi-final test from ambitious British lefty Jack Draper on Saturday as he aims to take the next step towards a rare Indian Wells ATP Masters 3-peat. The world number 3 from Spain is looking to join Roger Federer and Novak Djokovic as the only men to win 3 straight titles in the California desert. Alcaraz battled back from 1-4 down in the second set, coming up with a break and 2 love service holes to force the tiebreaker. Alcaraz had to save break points in each of his first 3 service games. However, after an emphatic hold for 4-3, he gained the first break of the contest with deft volley, and just like that, he was serving for the first set. After sliding to pop a drop volley winner over the net for set point, Alcaraz drilled a deep forehand that Cerundolo could barely get a racket on. But it was Cerundolo who broke first in the second, finally converting his 9th break point of the match, then holding for 4-1. But he couldn't hold off the world number 3, who raced to a 5-2 lead in the tiebreaker on the way to victory. Draper, who reached his first Masters 1000 semi-final with a 6-4 and 7-5 victory over American Ben Shelton. Draper took the opening set with 1 break of serve, then rallied from 0-3 down in a second set slugfest. Shelton's 32 unforced errors included 5 double faults, including 1 to hand Draper a break for 6-5 in the second. Russian Daniil Medvedev, runner-up to Alcaraz each of the past 2 years, rallied from a breakdown in a wild, wind-blown final set to beat Arthur Phil 6-4, 2-6 and 7-6. The world number 6 booked a semi-final meeting with Denmark's Holger Rune, a 5-7, 6-0 and 6-3 winner over Talon Griekspoor. In women's draw, top-seeded Sabalenka beat Lyudmila Samsonova 6-2, 6-3 to set up a meeting with Keys, who eased past former world number 4 Belinda Bencic 6-1, 6-1. As in her previous match, Sabalenka went down a quick break, but she won the next 9 games to take a 6-2, 3-1 lead. Samsonova pulled back a break as she leveled the second set at 3-3, but Sabalenka strung together another 3 games for the victory, lunging for a backhand passing winner on her first match point. Keys, coming off a tough 3-set win over Donna Vakic, fired 30 winners to put away Bencic in just 64 minutes. Keys is now riding a 16-match winning streak as she tries to become the first American woman to lift the title in the California desert since Serena Williams in 2001.
Marvelous Madison has the keys.
Up next is our offbeat segment where colourful stories await. A German runner traversed 850 kilometers of harsh conditions through the Saharan desert in an effort to raise awareness on global climate change and water availability. After completing the 150-kilometer Trans-Saharan Marathon in February, adventurer Tanja Brown then set out for an additional 700-kilometer solo run through the Moroccan Sahara. The Heidelberg native started her daunting trek on 25 February from Erg Chigaga, south of the Zagora, the Erg Chibi near Merzouga on a route organizers said totaled 700 kilometers in effort to put a spotlight on climate change and a need for responsible water use. Organizers said Brown ran for 8 to 10 hours per day as she battled extreme heat and severe temperature swings in addition to 3 sandstorms before completing the route 2 weeks later when she reached her final destination on 11th March. Brown reported consuming from 5,000 to 6,000 calories per day while downing 6 to 8 liters of water daily as she trudged through the desert. The extreme athlete says she is already eyeing her next challenge with a desert expedition through Jordan next on the horizon. Millions of people across India celebrated Holi, the Hindu festival of colours, by smearing each other with brightly coloured powder, dancing to festive music and feasting on traditional sweets prepared for the occasion. Throughout the celebration, people dressed mostly in all-white clothes celebrated the festival by hurling coloured powder at each other. Children perched on rooftops and balconies flung water balloons filled with coloured pigments at passers-by. Groups of young men also used water guns to chase people down in public parks and on the roads, while others danced on the streets to music blaring from speakers. The festival is a national holiday in India, while in Nepal it's a 2-day event that began on Thursday. Holi has its origins in Hindu mythology and celebrates the divine love between the Hindu god Krishna and his consort Radha, signifying a time of rebirth and rejuvenation. Spring has arrived in Mexico City with the blossoming of thousands of jacaranda flowers that have added a stunning purple hue to the Mexican capital's landscape, drawing the admiration of residents and tourists alike, while also attracting birds, bees and butterflies. The spectacle of blooming jacarandas often makes headlines and fills social media feeds with breathtaking images of the city. Originally native to South America, the jacaranda tree was introduced to Mexico in the 1920s. Enthralled by the Japanese cherry trees that cover the U.S. capital Washington, D.C. in pink and white every spring, then Mexican President Pascual Ortiz set out to replicate the same landscape in his nation's capital. However, Tatsugoro Matsumoto, a Japanese landscape architect who settled in Mexico in the late 19th century, told him they would not survive the city's temperature climate for long, so he advocated for jacarandas, a tropical tree he had learned about during a brief stay in Peru. And that's it from us this afternoon. In a top story, Hamas agrees to release the remaining American Israeli citizen to resume talks on ceasefire deal. Do join us again tonight at 8:30 p.m. on saluran Berita RTM and TV1. Or you can always stream us online on RTM Click's website and mobile app. Till then, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. I'm Renee Fong, and may you have a wonderful weekend ahead.